Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of The Games Therapist. My name is Adam. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I believe that games can be powerful clinical tools when we use them intentionally. Today, we're going to be unpacking a game from probably one of my favorite gaming companies, Unstable Games. So today, we're going to talk about a very cute but very chaotic game called Happy Little Dinosaurs. So why are these little dinosaurs happy? We'll get to that. Happy Little Dinosaurs is a competitive, medium-paced card game where players are trying to be the first to get to 50 points or try to outlast other players from random life disasters. The recommended age range for this activity is around ages 8 or older, though this activity could be adapted to someone who is younger than 8 years old. This activity can be completed in about 30 to 40 minutes. It could easily fit into a standard 50-minute therapy session. The emotional tone of Happy Little Dinosaurs is anxious resilience. There are chaotic, stressful events that are happening at every turn. Those events are shared by all players and externalized. This creates a mix of tension and camaraderie. Happy Little Dinosaurs is a competitive game where the threat is external, not interpersonal, like a typical competitive game would be. This often shifts the tone from blame, you did this, to a more of a shared experience. Wow, this happened to us. This activity is strong for rapport building and for identifying emotions, and it's especially good for clients who struggle to express their emotions in a more direct way. You can use the relatable disaster scenarios as entry points for conversation. There is a whole category of disaster cards called emotional disasters, and some of these are hilarious. There is a puberty edition that I added to my base set, and some of those crack us up. The randomness of the disasters can also reveal how clients respond to uncertainty and to stress. Treatment goals that Happy Little Dinosaurs supports would be coping skills, frustration tolerance, radical acceptance, and problem solving. So, how do I use Happy Little Dinosaurs in a therapy session? Well, the first thing I'm looking for is how do clients handle losing their turn and taking on one of the disaster cards? How do they regulate their emotions when their best card doesn't serve them? Next thing I look for is how do clients connect with those emotional disaster cards that I mentioned earlier? If a particular scenario stands out, why? Why is that resonating with them in particular? Are clients playing to win? Are they playing to connect? Or are they playing to avoid? Rules I flex. None. No rules are flexed here. This activity is very straightforward and also has additional rules when playing with 2 players versus a higher number of players. The additional rules here have you actually remove certain cards so that the gameplay doesn't feel too overpowered or too slow. When a client gets dysregulated, this activity gives me chances to name what I'm noticing without shaming. I saw you get frustrated when you took on that second disaster card. That must have been really disappointing to lose that turn. I'm also looking to practice recovery, not prevention. We're going to let the emotion happen and support the client's return to baseline. I'm also going to offer choices instead of control. Do you want to keep playing? Should we take a breath? What coping skill can we use right now? The disaster mechanic is really where the therapeutic value of this activity absolutely lives. While receiving a disaster card can feel like a setback, those cards can actually later provide an advantage. It creates a natural experiential reframe where clients can see how something frustrating or discouraging in the moment can actually even support their progress, which for me has opened up conversations about resilience, about shifting our perspective, and just overall about growth. All right, let's move on to our last section, which is therapist verdict. For therapeutic value for Happy Little Dinosaurs, I rated this a 4 out of 5. This activity can be a bit of a hit or miss depending on the client, especially younger clients who may not fully grasp the dual role of those disaster cards. With the right client, particularly a client who can reflect on kind of the undertones that go on in this activity, this game can lead to really meaningful conversations, especially when you connect it back to any of their own lived experiences. For emotional activation and regulation, I gave Happy Little Dinosaurs a 5 out of 5. Because the antagonist of this activity are the disasters themselves rather than other players, the emotional intensity here is much more contained. It still stings, don't get me wrong. It doesn't feel as personal. The pacing here is very easy to slow down, which can give you as the therapist natural opportunities to introduce coping skills and support their emotional regulation in the moment. For flexibility and adaptability, I gave Happy Little Dinosaurs a 3 out of 5. The mechanics in Happy Little Dinosaurs are solid and really shouldn't be changed, which does limit how much you can adapt it across developmental levels or other therapeutic goals. It doesn't easily become a cooperative Forbidden Island-esque game or even a narratively driven House of Danger kind of game. All that being said, you can flex the pacing to process. The emotional depth here is adaptable even if the structure isn't. For engagement and buy-in, I gave Happy Little Dinosaurs a 4 out of 5. Most clients enjoy the experience and will finish this game, but it's not one that gets replayed frequently. The randomness of Happy Little Dinosaurs does limit its strategic depth. It doesn't always have a lot of staying power compared to other games that I use. However, the cute factor it goes a long way in getting initial buy-in. The contrast between the adorable design of the meeples, of the disaster cards, even the numbered cards, all the little power-ups and things like that, that whole adorable design in contrast with the end of the world themes it's just really engaging. For session fit and practicality, I gave Happy Little Dinosaurs a 5 out of 5. This activity is very easy to implement in a therapy session. As long as you have a flat surface and some space for the cards and the player boards, you're set. Games run about 30 to 40 minutes, and the box is portable enough to bring between settings. So, as you'll see here. So we have the box, we have the little dinosaur meeples, and you'll also have these more rectangular foldable player boards and the deck of cards that you will use for the activity. And lastly, for therapist enjoyment, I gave Happy Little Dinosaurs a 3 out of 5. Personally, I love you Unstable Games, but Happy Little Dinosaurs is one of my less preferred games. It's very easy to set up, and the disaster cards create really unique opportunities for connection, especially with kids and with teenagers. I tend to use Happy Little Dinosaurs more for the rapport building side of things, and then sometimes we'll revisit it later based on the client's interest. Happy Little Dinosaurs isn't the most adaptable game that I've ever reviewed, and it's not even necessarily one that I reach for in every situation, but it kind of doesn't need to be. Happy Little Dinosaurs creates a really specific experience, navigating stress, navigating setbacks, and unpredictability in a way that feels shared. And for the right client, this activity could be really effective and really memorable, especially if it's someone who benefits from externalizing their experiences and practicing recovery. All right, and that is my review for Happy Little Dinosaurs. Thank you for watching this review. If you like what you saw and want to stay up to date on future reviews, go ahead and subscribe. A huge, ginormous thank you to everyone who subscribed already. You all are the best. Remember, sometimes the right game opens the right conversation. And sometimes that conversation starts with a tiny dinosaur just trying to survive a really bad day. See ya.